Sorry, I had muted the
Yeah,
camera. Bolo, how are you?
yeah, we are all fine. Thank you. Thank you.
Good. Great to see you.
Thank
Hmm. But these kind of workshops and lectures should have been physical. There is the fun that is there in
Right, you're
physical
right.
interaction, face-to-face interaction.
You are right.
We have been doing this online things since last 2 years. But to be honest, no fun. But yes, we have to carry on.
Yeah, yeah. We feel the same about online
Yeah,
classes too. Yeah. So
very
here,
true.
Dr. Mishra, we have Dr. Punita Pathak, Dr. Manisha Mishra from Vasanta College for Women. Dr.
Yes.
Preeti Singh would be
Good
joining
afternoon,
me.
everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. My regards to all the teachers.
Yeah. So, Dr. Meena, please take over.
So, ma'am, now we can start.
I think we have 3 minutes according to your circulated program. अभी 2 मिनट बाकी है बट फिर भी हम लोग बात कर सकते हैं इन्फॉर्मली. आप टॉपिक इंट्रोड्यूस कीजिए. राकेश जी, आप टॉपिक इंट्रोड्यूस कीजिए.
Yes, sir. Namaskar. I welcome all of you in this 5-day ongoing workshop on conflict resolution and peace research issues and methods. And since last 4 days, we are listening this conflict and resolution issue in different perspectives like gender, Gandhi and peace, environment issue, and today, and that continuity, we will discuss about this issue, the role of civil society in peace building. And today we have with us our speaker, Dr. Binod Mishra. Dr. Binod Kumar Mishra is the director of Center for Studies in International Relations and Development, CSIRD, Kolkata. He is a PhD from the School of International Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. Prior to this, he worked as a fellow at Maulana Abul Kalam Azad Institute of Asian Studies, Kolkata, and taught political science under Burdwan University, West Bengal. His current research focus on India-China relationship in the larger regional context. His research areas include traditional and non-traditional security issues, Indian foreign policy, development issues, and diaspora studies. Dr. Mishra was part of the Track 2 BCIM process and serves as the secretary of the only sub-regional civilian initiative between India and China, namely Kolkata to Kurmi K2K Forum. He also coordinates research on Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation, BIMSTEC. He has published widely on international relations and regional cooperation, both in India and South and Southeast Asia. So I request to Dr. Mishra for his presentation. Sir.
Wow, that was too long, Rakesh. You probably didn't eliminate anything from my long CV. Anyway, good afternoon, everybody. And my thanks are due to Professor Swati Nanda and her colleagues, Rakesh and everybody that Swati named and Rakesh would name at the end of it, the program. And Swati, 1 more minute beyond. I guess यहाँ पे lingua franca हिंदी होगी ज़्यादातर. Swati, am I correct?
Well, yes, most students are comfortable, if the lecture is in Hindi,
No,
but then there are
no,
students.
no issue. So we will try to be bilingual as much as possible, and any problems that can be, I can attempt to, clarify as much as I can in Hindi language. तो चलिए शुरू करते हैं. आज का जो विषय है, पहले तो मुबारक हो आप लोग को कि इतनी अच्छी एक टॉपिक को लेके आप लोग 5 दिन तक एक लंबा ये व्हाट्सएप चला रहे हैं. ये बहुत अच्छी बात है. जितनी स्टूडेंट्स में जितनी ब्लॉक्स में देख रहा हूँ, आई एम सीइंग 57 participation even on the 5th day, that to the last program. I'm sure आखिरी वाला प्रोग्राम है, इसके लिए भी इतनी लोगों की पार्टिसिपेशन इट बहुत ही एनकरेजिंग है। एंड पता चलता है कि बहुत वाइब्रेंट एकेडमिक एनवायरनमेंट है आप लोगों के यहाँ, जिसकी झलक हमें पिछले साल भी मिली थी जब हम लेक्चर देने आए थे। जो स्टूडेंट लोगों ने जो सवाल कर रहे थे, जो स्टेटमेंट्स दे रहे थे, मुझे याद है किसी ने वेल ऑफ इग्नोरेंस की बात की थी। दैट वाज रियली लॉडेबल कि इतनी अच्छी अंडरस्टैंडिंग है आपकी स्टूडेंट्स लोगों की। तो मैटर ऑफ प्राइड फॉर मी दैट यू नो आई हैव गॉट अनदर अपॉर्चुनिटी, और एक मौका मिला है इस टॉपिक पे बात करने के लिए। बहुत ही अहम मुद्दा है, टॉपिक बहुत ही पर्टिनेंट है आजकल की सोसाइटी के लिए। अब अभी की अगर बात की जाए तो ये इतनी अहम मुद्दा है। अभी सबसे जो बड़ी संकट है हमारे सामने, विश्व समुदाय के सामने, वो ये है कि द ऑनगोइंग वॉर बिटवीन रशिया एंड यूक्रेन। यू नो, इट इज अ क्राइसिस सिचुएशन, इट्स ए कॉन्फ्लिक्ट सिचुएशन। ये एक कॉन्फ्लिक्ट सिचुएशन है, क्राइसिस सिचुएशन है। इसके विद इन दीज फिर भी हम लोगों को सुनने ये आ रहा है कि सीज फायर्स हो रहे हैं, टेम्पररी सीज फायर्स हो रहे हैं, अग्रीमेंट्स हो रहे हैं। आज जो सबसे बड़ी अग्रीमेंट हुई है कि एक इवाक्यूएशन प्रपोजल जो है, प्लान जो है मारियोपोल का, उसको अप्रूव किया गया है एट द हाईएस्ट लेवल ऑफ बोथ द कंट्रीज। दोनों देशों की जो शीर्ष नेतृत्व है वो एक इवाक्यूएशन प्लान को अप्रूव किए हैं, ये एट द हाइट ऑफ वॉर। तो ये मैं इसलिए बोल रहा हूँ कि देखिए, कुछ भी सिचुएशन कुछ भी हो, वहां से भी जब कुछ पॉजिटिव निकल के आता है, जब हम देखते हैं कि टू स्टेट्स दे आर एक्चुअली ऑफिशियली एट वॉर विथ ईच अदर, एंड एज इट इज सेड एवरीथिंग इज फेयर इन लव एंड वॉर। मतलब कोई किसी को नहीं छोड़ रहा है। आज यूक्रेन ने रशिया के ऑयल डिपो पे बमबारी की है, कल तक और अभी तक रशियन बमबारी और गोला बारूद यूक्रेन के ऊपर जारी है। इस माहौल में भी हम देखते हैं कि कुछ चीजें होता है जो कि वार जो कंसेप्ट है उसके एकदम खिलाफ है, एकदम ऑपोजिट है। जैसे कि वो ह्यूमैनिटेरियन कॉरिडोर बनाना, जैसे टेम्पररी सीज फायर करना, जैसे ये इवाक्यूएशन प्रपोजल को पास अलाउ करना। तो ये जो काम होता है जब स्टेट्स आर एट वार, जब राष्ट्र एक दूसरे के साथ लड़ रहे हैं, तो ये काम करता कौन है? हु डज दिस वर्क? हाउ डज दिस हैपन? जबकि स्टेट तो लड़ाई में व्यस्त है, उसको तो जीतने से मतलब है। ही इज नॉट कंसर्न्ड अबाउट द ह्यूमैनिटेरियन कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस। In fact, his objective is to kill. You know, Russia's objective is to kill Ukrainians. Ukraine's objective is to kill Russians. तो उस जब दो देश ये कर रहे हैं, तो ये इसके बीच में से ये पॉजिटिव चीजें आती कहाँ से? कौन करता है ये काम? जो करता है उसी को हम कहते हैं सिविल सोसाइटी। अगर सिविल सोसाइटी की कोई डेफिनेशन अगर मुझे पूछे तो मैं बोलूंगा यही कि जब एडवर्स सिचुएशन हो, जब स्टेट्स फेल टू डू व्हाट दे आर मैंडेटेड टू डू, जब राष्ट्र वो करने की क्षमता खो बैठती है, या फिर करने से इनकार करती है, या फिर उसकी ऑपोजिट करती है जिसके लिए उसको माना जाता है, यू नो द बेसिस ऑफ स्टेट, जब वो वायलेटेड होता है, जब वो उसकी रक्षा खुद स्टेट नहीं करती है, तब जो सिचुएशन क्राइसिस होता है उसको मैनेज करने के लिए, उसको रिड्यूस करने के लिए, उसको खत्म करने के लिए, और उसके आगे शांति बहाल करने के लिए, परमानेंट शांति बहाल करने के लिए जो संस्थाएं, जो ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस, जो इंस्टीट्यूशंस, जो इंडिविजुअल्स काम करते हैं, उन सब को मिला के हम बोल सकते हैं कि यही है सिविल सोसाइटी। तो सिविल सोसाइटी अगर हम देखें तो ऐसे उसका एक कोई बाउंड्री हम खींच नहीं सकते हैं कि ये है सिविल सोसाइटी और इसके बियॉन्ड को समथिंग एल्स व्हिच इज ऑन सिविल सोसाइटी और समथिंग एल्स। ऐसा कुछ नहीं है। इट इज एन एब्स्ट्रैक्शन। किसी भी स्पीयर में आप देख लीजिए, कुछ लोग ऐसे होंगे जो कि जिनकी कंसर्न रिप्रेजेंट्स द शेयर्ड कंसर्न ऑफ द कम्युनिटी। उन्हीं लोगों की एक्टिविटी को हम बोलेंगे सिविल सोसाइटी। वो इंडिविजुअल हो सकते हैं, वो एक छोटा सा ऑर्गेनाइजेशन हो सकता है, ये कोई क्लब हो सकता है, रिलीजियस इंस्टीट्यूशन हो सकता है, वुमेन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन हो सकता है, कुछ भी, स्टूडेंट यू नो गैदरिंग हो सकता है, चैरिटेबल इंस्टीट्यूशन हो सकता है, एनीथिंग which is not part of the state machinery and shares the feeling of the community or represents the feeling of the community can be called a civil society. So it is, it lives within society, ये society के अंदर रहता है, political system के अंदर काम करता है, economic society की इकोनॉमिक कैपेबिलिटी से इसकी इकोनॉमिक कैपेबिलिटी होती है, सोसाइटी के साथ जो एजुकेशनल एकेडमिक व्हाटएवर एक्सपोजर मॉडर्निटी आइडियाज जो होती है, यही ये जो सिविल सोसाइटी होती है ये उसी को ही रिप्रेजेंट करता है। तो इसीलिए ये बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट एक कॉन्सेप्ट है जिसके लिए कि मतलब 5 दिन तक आप लोग इसको डिस्कस करते रहे, इससे इसकी इम्पोर्टेंस कितनी है, अहमियत कितनी है, ये मालूम चलती है। तो अगर हम ये मान लें कि सिविल सोसाइटी होता है यही वाला एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, एक इंस्टीट्यूशन, एक मीडियम, एक आरेना, एक स्पेस, आप कुछ भी उसको बोल लीजिए। सो यही है जहां पे कि बहुत कुछ किया जा सकता है जो कि स्टेट से पॉसिबल नहीं होता है। जैसे एक कॉन्फ्लिक्ट की जब हम बात करते हैं, अब थोड़ी देर में ड्यूरिंग द लेक्चर आई विल टेल यू व्हाट काइंड ऑफ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स आर देयर, हाउ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स इमर्ज करेंगे, लेकिन जब सिविल सोसाइटी की रोल की बात आती है तब बात आती है, उनकी बात तब से होने लगती है जब एक कॉन्फ्लिक्ट शुरू हो जाता है, लेकिन सिविल सोसाइटी की रोल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट से पहले भी रहता है, क्योंकि अगर हम पीस बिल्डिंग की बात करें, और पीस बिल्डिंग जो कॉन्सेप्ट है ये पीस कीपिंग से अलग है, पीस मेंटेनेंस से अलग है, सबसे अलग। ये एक प्रोसेस है, पीस बिल्डिंग एक प्रोसेस है, एक लॉन्ग टर्म, एक लंबी मियाद का एक एक्शन प्लान है, जिससे सोसाइटी को ये अश्योरेंस मिलता है कि सोसाइटी में अभी कॉन्फ्लिक्ट नहीं है, नाउ थिंग्स आर पीसफुल, अभी शांति बहाल है, एंड वो शांति ड्यूरेबल है, ऐसा नहीं है कि फ्राजाइल है। सो इसीलिए एक डिफरेंशिएशन किया जाता है कि absence of peace, absence of violence doesn't necessarily mean presence of peace. So the concept of peace building is little larger than peacekeeping, peace maintaining, or other kind of conflict prevention. वो भी बात करेंगे, लेकिन अभी जो बोल रहे थे कि सिविल सोसाइटी की रोल इवन कॉन्फ्लिक्ट शुरू होने से पहले भी रहता है। वो क्या रहता है सिविल सोसाइटी के रोल? सिविल सोसाइटी का रोल रहता है कॉन्फ्लिक्ट प्रिवेंशन में। कॉन्फ्लिक्ट
इसका करना पड़ रहा है।
हेलो एनीबॉडी? सो conflict prevention is the first and foremost activity that the civil society engages itself in. सिविल सोसाइटी अपने आप को एंगेज करता है पहले कॉन्फ्लिक्ट प्रिवेंशन में, क्योंकि as I told you, since civil society doesn't have any separate existence on its own, it shares its location within the society, जिसके अंदर, उसी समाज के अंदर ये रहता है जहां से ही कॉन्फ्लिक्ट की उत्पत्ति होती है। तो इसको कॉन्फ्लिक्ट होने की भनक भी लगती है, क्योंकि ये लोग, ये जो इंस्टीट्यूशन, ये जो स्पेस, ये एक ऐसा स्पेस है जहां पे की कम्युनिटी की आइडियाज एक्सप्रेस्ड होता है, वहां पे इंटरेक्शंस होती है। सो दिस इज द स्पेस वेयर द डिबेट्स टेक प्लेस। सो यहीं पे भनक पहले लग जाती है इनको कि कॉन्फ्लिक्ट होने वाली है, या फिर देयर इज सम इशू, कोई एक प्रॉब्लम है, कुछ एक प्रॉब्लम है। एंड हर एक समाज की एक जो आइडियाज है, ये आइडियाज बड़ा क्लियर होता है इस सिविल सोसाइटी के पास। जैसे कि हम बोलेंगे इंडियन सोसाइटी में फॉल्ट लाइंस कहाँ अगर है, तो आप जाइए जो ग्रास रूट लेवल पे जो ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस काम कर रहे हैं उनसे पूछिए, या फिर जो भी इंटेलेक्चुअल्स इन इश्यूज को लेकर बात करते हैं, या फिर जो भी रिलीजियस ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस ग्रास रूट्स पे काम करते हैं, उनसे आप बात कीजिए। उनकी पर्सपेक्टिव अलग अलग भी होने से भी आपको उनकी बातों से पता चल जाएगा कि समाज में, इस समाज में क्या चल रहा है। कोई भी एक समाज को आप ले लीजिए, कितनी बड़ी समाज को ले लीजिए, कितनी छोटे समाज को ले लीजिए, वहां पे जाइए, इसी लोगों से, इन्हीं लोगों से बात कीजिए। हम जब सोशल साइंस में रिसर्च करते हैं, आगे भी जब आप रिसर्च करेंगे तो आपको ऐसे ही सब इसको दिया जाएगा। वहां पे ग्रुप डिस्कशन एक मेथड है, जहां पे कि आप कम्युनिटी के ओपिनियन को कलेक्ट करते हैं, एंड दोज पीपल हु पार्टिसिपेट दे आर द सिविल सोसाइटी, दैट स्पेस इज कॉल्ड सिविल सोसाइटी। वो जो जगह है उसको सिविल सोसाइटी कहते हैं। तो उनको पहले भनक लग जाती है कि समाज में कुछ प्रॉब्लम है, एंड यही लोग लग जाते हैं, इनको कोई रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी देता नहीं है, स्टेट कोई रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी इनको देता नहीं है। हालांकि ये वो काम करते हैं जो स्टेट को करना चाहिए, जो स्टेट को इंश्योर करना चाहिए, जो कि जहाँ की स्टेट फेल्योर होता है, ये लोग वहां पे स्टेप इन कर जाते हैं और अपने आप काम करना शुरू कर देते हैं। कुछ ही लोग उनमें से होते हैं जो कि जिनको बोलते हैं कम्युनिटी एंगेजमेंट, they start engaging with the community, they start talking to these people, those who are who they think, जिनको ये सिविल सोसाइटी वालों को जब पता चलता है कि हाँ ये लोग हैं, इनकी आइडियाज थोड़ा जो है ये मतलब समाज की जो हार्मनी है, समाज की जो पीसफुल सिचुएशन है, इसके खिलाफ इनकी मत, इनकी ओपिनियंस है, इनकी मत है, तो इनसे बात की जाए। तो वो these people try to talk it out, and if it is a fissure between two communities, अगर या फिर more than one communities, अगर एक ऐसा जगह है जहाँ पे कि दो से तीन, एक से ज्यादा कम्युनिटीज रहते हैं, कम्युनिटीज कैन बी डिफाइंड इन एनी वे, किसी भी तरीके से आप कम्युनिटी को डिफाइन कीजिए, लैंग्वेज से कीजिए, रिलीजन से कीजिए, जैसे भी आप कीजिए। तो different kinds of communities are staying together and there is some problem cooking up. So these are the people who start to get to know it at the earliest warning is received by them, and they also give the earliest warning to the society. Hey, look here, there is a problem, better be prepared, better take these corrective measures, better accept these things, or else you are heading at trouble. So they try their best, वो लोग अपनी कोशिश करते हैं, जितनी हो सकती है कोशिश करते हैं, हम इंडिविजुअल लेवल पे करते हैं, कम्युनिटी लेवल पे करते हैं। They try to persuade the state, they try to persuade the differing parties at the stage. They try to stop the escalation. If they manage to succeed, if they succeed in doing it, then they manage to prevent a conflict from emerging. They do manage preventive conflict emerging, and there are many instances in history जहाँ पे कि conflicts have been prevented. Conflicts have been prevented by the intervention of these kind of grassroots level organizations or civil society organizations. So ये role लेकिन किसी को समझ में नहीं आता है, मतलब दिखाई नहीं देता है, because conflict didn't emerge. So in the context of peace building, in the context of conflict management, in the context of conflict resolution, ये जो role play करता है civil society, this is never highlighted because this never comes to discussion because they have not allowed the conflict to emerge in the first place. So the most successful role of the civil society is never discussed, can never be quantified because there is no data available. It's not talked about data because there is no conflict. However, so when there is a discussion about the effectiveness of sorry, when there is a discussion about the effectiveness of civil society in conflict, in peace building, I always say that the effectiveness is 100%, provided the society toward the line of the civil society, wherever the society has toward the line of the civil society, जहां कहीं भी सोसाइटी ने सिविल सोसाइटी के अर्ली वार्निंग को सीरियसली ली है और उस पर अमल किया है, वहां पे कॉन्फ्लिक्ट प्रिवेंटेड हुई है. सो द सक्सेस रेट ऑफ सिविल सोसाइटी is 100% wherever the society has towed the line of the civil society. So जब सिविल सोसाइटी की बात, सिविल सोसाइटी की सजेशंस को नहीं मान के जब सिचुएशन एस्केलेटेड हो जाता है, जब when the situation escalates, and it escalates into war, into conflict, into open conflict, when gloves are off and now people are with the objective of hurting each other. Now, here is a situation, this becomes evolve. It's like what as it is happening in Ukraine right now, or in many parts, many parts, be they internal conflicts or international conflicts, in whichever way. So that becomes the second phase of a conflict, of a conflict, but visibly the first phase. So we see the conflict has emerged now. There is a conflict. Let's say conflicts. Uh, can we say that the Sri Lankans didn't know, or the Sri Lankan people didn't know that the LTT problem is brewing up? Everybody knew in Sri Lanka that there is a problem. Everybody knows that there is a problem in Bangladesh regarding the Chakmas. Everybody knew there is a problem of Rohingyas in Myanmar. Everybody knows that there are interracial, interethnic fissures in Nepal. Everybody knows that there were issues at the time of Indian independence in India's northeast. So the civil societies of those times tried their level best to mend things. They in the Indian context, they even went up to the extent of influencing the Constituent Assembly, which was drafting the Constitution, and they could accommodate as much aspirations as possible. So this is the best example of civil society succeeding in preventing conflict. Is the Indian Constitution, the framing of Indian Constitution. Just read through Indian Constitution, one would जो भी पढ़ेगा उसको समझ में आएगा कि कितनी अच्छी तरह से सिविल सोसाइटी के इनपुट को लेके, इम्पल्सेस को लेके कितनी अच्छी तरीके से, जबकि एक तरफ से ये लोग apprehensive of the divisive tendencies of various communities, very sensibly, very responsibly, accommodated their nationalistic aspirations, their all kinds of social aspirations, their all kinds of aspirations. That's why various specific provisions were made in relation to specific geographical areas, specific identity-based groups. So all kinds of accommodative things were brought into the Indian Constitution only under the influence of the civil society. Because if you remember, the people who were drafting that Indian Constitution were part of the civil society during the British Indian period and even after that. Though they were part of the political process, they were also part of the civil society. So that's what that was a great success story, the Indian success story. But where these things fail, even during this Indian independence time, if there is this success story which was evident from the creation of Indian Constitution, which is a matter of post 1947. But what happened in 1947? On those 2-3 nights or a week around Indian independence was a clear failure of the civil society. The civil society could do nothing to prevent the massacre of 1 million people and displacement of 3 million people. So, when conflict emerges all on a sudden, the civil society becomes very, very ineffective in dealing with that situation at that point in time. But eventually, it is the civil society through which the conflict is managed, the conflict is transformed, the conflict is resolved, and the attempts to build peace, the attempt to rebuild the society begins. So that is what, in a broad sense, one can say the role of a civil society in peace building. Now, coming to the exact thing that the civil society does, and the modus operandi through which it does, and how much it becomes successful, what are the factors? क्या factors है जो determine करता है कि एक civil society एक conflict को prevent तो नहीं कर पाया, conflict को कितना manage कर पाएगा, कितना resolve कर पाएगा, and उसके बाद कितना अच्छा peace building हो पाएगा, कितने durable peace हो पाएगा. There are various factors that are dependent. that on which the success of the civil society, the role of civil society is dependent. However, the most important distinction in terms of the effectiveness of the civil society की अगर effectiveness की बात की जाए तो effectiveness civil society की कुछ एरियाज में, जहां तक कॉन्फ्लिक्ट की सवाल है, कुछ एरियाज में बहुत ही सक्सेसफुल रहा है एंड कुछ एरियाज में दिस रिमेन्स लिटिल द सक्सेस रेट इज नॉट दैट मच जितनी की आशा की जा सकती है. ये ऐसा क्यों है? बिकॉज किस किस में सक्सेस रेट ज्यादा है? देखिए, कॉन्फ्लिक्ट मैनेजमेंट, अगर हम देखें कि एक जगह कॉन्फ्लिक्ट चल रहा है, वहां पे अगर सिविल सोसाइटी की एक्टिविटीज आपको नजर आए तो देखेंगे कि कॉन्फ्लिक्ट कैन बी लार्जली मैनेज. एग्जाम्पल इज फिलीपींस. इन फिलीपींस में, वहां पे सदर्न फिलीपींस में देयर इज ए कंटिन्यूअस इस्लामिक identity based insurgency. So when that is in opposition to the Christian majority Filipino identity, it is a question of identity, and that conflict is a long enduring conflict. The conflict is जो conflicts basically primordial identities पे based होते हैं, जैसे कि religion, जैसे कि ethnicity, जैसे कि लैंग्वेज, जो प्राइमोडियल आइडेंटिटीज है, जो कि आदमी को लगता है कि वो लेके ही पैदा हुआ है, जो कि हालांकि वो है नहीं. बट इन टर्म्स ऑफ आइडेंटिटी, लाइक मी बीइंग ए स्टूडेंट और यू बीइंग ए स्टूडेंट इज नॉट ए प्राइमोडियल आइडेंटिटी. एज इफ वी कैन चूज टू बी ए स्टूडेंट or not be a student, but being whatever, being an Odia, I can't escape. I have to be an Odia because I'm born and brought up in Odia. Or for that matter, I had to say, because I do not believe in religion, I'm a Hindu. I cannot escape that identity. So, उसी को ही primordial identity में बोल रहा हूँ. And the secular identity is a student से बोला मैंने. So that is a secular identity. We can choose to have that. So those conflicts, जो conflicts are based on primordial identity, are problems based on primordial identities. Those conflicts are very hard to manage, or even if you manage, very hard to resolve, or peace, building peace through such conflicts. So while these conflicts are understood, are realized to be of enduring nature, जब ये पता चल जाता है कि ये कॉन्फ्लिक्ट तो भैया लंबा चलनी है, क्योंकि इसकी तो कहीं मतलब दिखाई नहीं दे रहा है, अभी कुछ इसका अंत होने का कुछ आसार दिखाई नहीं दे रहा है, तो तब क्या किया जाए? कॉन्फ्लिक्ट जब चल ही रहा है, तो एटलीस्ट लेट्स ट्राई टू मैनेज द कॉन्फ्लिक्ट. द सिविल सोसाइटी इन दीज सर्कमस्टेंसेस हैज बीन वेरी इफेक्टिव. वो कैसे करते हैं? लाइक what do they do? They establish small patches, छोटे पैचेस एस्टेब्लिश करते हैं. लेट्स से एक स्कूल हो गया, एक कहीं पे एक हॉस्पिटल हो गया, वो लोग दे स्टार्ट आर्ग्यूइंग, the local civil society organization, they start talking to both the parties. Hey, spare the school or spare the hospital, please. Let's agree that you people are worrying, wherever you are worrying, go and work. Go ahead if you have that agenda, but at least spare the children, spare the people who are aged, and because this hospital is used by your people and their people. So they create patches of peace, and that patches of peace can be expanded and connected, and it's a long term thing. But in these kind of these ways, the civil societies have been very effective in managing conflict, that they have not allowed it to escalate beyond a point, or they have managed to restrict the impact of conflict, the impact of conflict on the society to some extent. So that is a very successful story. But when it comes to actually building peace in a society, there the success rate is kind of not that encouraging, and the fault is not with the civil society alone. You cannot say that सिविल सोसाइटी की गलती है, उसने पीस बिल्डिंग नहीं कर पाया, क्योंकि आर्गुमेंट ये है और कॉन्सेप्ट भी ये है, थियरी भी ये है कि क्योंकि सिविल सोसाइटी इज नॉट पार्ट ऑफ द कॉन्फ्लिक्ट, जबकि क्योंकि सिविल सोसाइटी कॉन्फ्लिक्ट का हिस्सा नहीं है, तो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट खत्म होना और कॉन्फ्लिक्ट की वजह खत्म होना सिविल सोसाइटी के हाथ में नहीं है, क्योंकि वो ना तो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट क्रिएट किया है, ना कॉन्फ्लिक्ट को परपेचुएट कर रहा है. सो अगर कॉन्फ्लिक्ट को पूरी तरह से खत्म होना है, तो द पीपल हु आर इन्वॉल्वड इन कॉन्फ्लिक्ट, the people who are involved in conflict, they have to come out with, they have to accept that enough is enough, or we need to have peace. Then only peace building, peace building would be successful. Then you must be arguing, तब तो फिर बात करनी, तो फिर क्यों खामोखा बात करें ये सिविल सोसाइटी के बारे में, अगर उनकी हाथ में ही नहीं है कुछ करना, then what are they doing, what are they up to, why are they operating, are they unnecessarily eating up a space? No. The concept is that when the war lines are drawn and there is no man's land, there is no space for negotiation. This is the civil society which acts as that space, particular space, where negotiations can be undertaken, and that communication between two warring factions, leading to negotiations and agreements and possible resolution of the conflict is done by these civil society organizations. Because unless there is this mediation, is there, war will go on perpetually. Countries will, or agencies will keep on fighting with each other, because in identity-based conflicts, conflict is not like Mahabharata or Ramayana that we have seen, or one day's riot that every one side will be victorious. It never happens. In conflicts, every conflict is a kind of, has a long shadow of social shadow, or a shadow over time. Which we call in another concept shadow of future, but I'm just saying shadow in terms of on time. So the management of conflict becomes the primary objective of civil society in most of the cases. Where the conflict seems to be enduring. In Kashmir, there is now an understanding. This understanding is absolutely now certain. For 100 years minimum, 100 I'm saying because the coming generation, they can easily pass on the experiences, whatever experiences they have. For coming 100 years, the Kashmir Valley is going to remain conflictual, or on boil. Anytime conflict can erupt in that area. In fact, it is in the process of conflict, and I doubt conflict of this level, conflict would ever go below this level where it is right now. So in this kind of situation, there are various women organizations. They are trying to establish these kind of peace zones. They are trying to protect. They're trying to throw their protective shield around few people, or few particularly vulnerable people, or particularly important people. Like in Colombia, the most important people in their social and economic activity in Colombia were the traders and trade unions. So they were, feeling threatened by the warring factions in Colombia. So the civil society emerged. They said, whatever, if these people are not there, then these warring people will kill each other and we all will die. But these people need to be protected. So they provided a protective shield. Only the civil society did nothing. They just provided protection to this particular group. So the society could, sustain itself despite there being a war. So in those the Kashmiri women are engaged in those kind of roles. So the role of civil society is like is very jelly, very elastic. You can say it can take any shape. Whatever the requirement, that would be the shape of the role of civil society. When the conflict is managed to certain, the civil society doesn't waste a minute. The civil society starts negotiating for end of active hostility. So the conflict is transformed from level to level, from very highest level of armed conflict. Then it is brought down to very less degree of armed conflict in terms of geographical involvement, in terms of armaments used, or in terms of whatever. In many ways, they try to scale down the level of violence in conflict, or they manage to bring the warring factions to a debate. They reduce the वो लोग entire कॉन्फ्लिक्ट को एक डिबेट पे ले आते हैं, जैसे कि हम लोग जेएनयू में करते हैं. जेएनयू में यही होता है, लड़ाई हर दिन होती है, बट ऑन डिबेट, ऑन आर्गुमेंट्स. लड़ाई हर दिन होती है जेएनयू में, बट दिस फाइट, they transform this civil society. They try to transform that highest form of militant conflict to the table of debate. So that is conflict transformation. And the civil society doesn't waste any time. The moment it realizes that no, there is conflict is now managed, they try to do the next step. That is the conflict transformation. Now, how do they do the conflict transformation? Conflict transformation एक ऐसा दौर है, एक ऐसा टाइम है जहां पे कि बहुत, दिस इज द मोस्ट क्रूशियल टाइम ऑफ ए कॉन्फ्लिक्ट, ऑफ ए प्रोसेस ऑफ पीस बिल्डिंग. क्योंकि जब आप कॉन्फ्लिक्ट स्केल डाउन कर रहे हो, ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन कर रहे हो, एंड टुवर्ड्स मूविंग टुवर्ड्स कॉन्फ्लिक्ट रिजोल्यूशन, वहां पे यू हैव टू think of very interesting aspect is that so long as there was a conflict, few people were dependent on it, like the voluntary soldiers, the people who were belligerents, those who were living out of that. Now if they quit, if there is no war, no conflict, they are not required, that skill is not required. तो वो स्किल जब रिक्वायर्ड नहीं होता है, वो एंड व्हाट गुड आर दे फॉर द सोसाइटी, उनकी रिहेबिलिटेशन कैसे होगी, हाउ कैन दे बी रीइंटीग्रेटेड इनटू द सोसाइटी. ये एक टेक्निकल एस्पेक्ट रहता है. ये डिपेंड करता है कितनी रिसोर्सेज है, क्या स्कोप्स हैं, कितनी पोटेंशियल इकोनॉमी है, क्या अपॉर्चुनिटीज हैं, कितने लोग इंटरेस्टेड है, बहुत सारी चीजों. सो दिस इज अ वेरी क्रूशियल फेज जहां पे ये काम करना रहता है. एंड दूसरी तरफ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट रिडक्शन, आप एब्सोल्यूट कॉन्फ्लिक्ट रिडक्शन पा सकते हैं बाय reducing, let's say, the number of casualties per day in conflict, or per year. You can reduce over the period, let's say 5 years, 10 years, you can reduce the number of casualties, as it happened in India's northeast. India के नॉर्थ ईस्ट में casualty rates, आप अगर ले लो from 60, जब से वो शुरू हुआ, मैं मीजो इंडिपेंडेंस की बात से शुरू कर रहा हूँ, let's say 1968, तब से जो डेथ रेट थी, वो सिविलियन हो, मिलिटरी हो, टेररिस्ट हो, the number of killings started coming down in post 1985 87 scenario. So that that kind of conflict transformation, when that happens, then the next phase is that how do we heal, how do we heal the trauma that has been suffered. Because जब conflict होती है primarily a primordial nature, जहाँ पे कोई भी आइडेंटिटी को लेके, प्राइमोडियल आइडेंटिटी को लेके जब कॉन्फ्लिक्ट होती है, बहुत बड़ी एक ट्रॉमा रहती है. द ट्रॉमा being borne by both the communities or all the communities that are involved. Let's say, for easy understanding, two communities who are fighting against each other, जहाँ पे conflict चल रही है, तो वहां पे जो ट्रॉमा रहता है, there is a huge psychological trauma, and the psychological trauma very interestingly is created by, I think last time we also talked about it, what Charles Derrida calls a kind of ontology, image of each other created in a way जो कि एक दूसरे को मतलब एक दूसरे के नाम से डर जाता है, या फिर starts hating the other. Ontology means creating a haunting image of somebody. जैसे मैं एग्जांपल देता हूँ, इसका फेमस एग्जांपल, मैं अगर आपको बोलूंगा कि जाके आई हैव got a very nice looking tiger, I have got Madam Swati, go and spend a night having this tiger as your pet, she would say, what are you talking, Dr. Mishra, have you gone mad? You must have gone mad. Well, how can I get into the room with a tiger? एक शेर के साथ कैसे सो सकता हूँ? वो थोड़ी ना कुत्ता है कि मैं उसको पेट जैसे समझ के जाऊँ, खा लेगा मेरे को. Whereas the fact is, ना तो मैडम सत्यनंदो को कभी शेर ने काटा है, ना उनके पापा को, बट ये कन्विक्शन उनमें है कि शेर काट लेगा उनको, शेर की पर्सनालिटी के बारे में उनकी ये ख्याल है. सिमिलरली आप ये सोशल मीडिया में देखिए ना आजकल जो चल रहा है, एक कम्युनिटी के बारे में, कोई भी कम्युनिटी बेस्ड आप मैसेज उठा के देख लीजिए, ये एक ऐसा इमेज प्रेजेंट करता है जो कि आपको एक एसेंशियल एक बिलीव दे देता है कि वो आदमी ऐसा है. मुसलमान मतलब वो ऐसा है, हिंदू मतलब ऐसा है, एक स्टेरियोटाइप क्रिएट कर देता है. आप क्वेश्चन नहीं करते हो. प्रोफेसर स्वातिनंद डिडंट क्वेश्चन that whether a tiger can bite or not. She doesn't need to question because she is so convinced. Similarly, that kind of conviction is entrenched. That kind of people operate with that kind of that level of convenience that the other community is to be eliminated. The security खुद की कम्युनिटी की सुरक्षा इस पे डिपेंड करता है कि कितनी जल्दी दूसरी कम्युनिटी की खात्मा हो. तो सबसे बड़ा एग्जांपल है रवांडा में, the Hutus massacred the Tutsis in 2 nights. In 2 nights, 1.5 million Tutsis were eliminated, and they were called, these people are not human beings. These people are not human beings. So they were called termites. They were called dogs. So eliminate them. So that kind of when the other community, जब इस तरह की कॉन्फ्लिक्ट हुई है जहां पे एक कम्युनिटी हैज massacred the other community, or similar massacres have been committed by both sides. इधर भी massacres हुई है, उधर भी massacre हुए. जो scars the people carry, जो जख्मे लोगों के ऊपर लगते हैं, वो हील करने का जो प्रोसेस है during the time of conflict transformation assumes the most significant importance, because अगर वो जख्म नहीं भरे दोनों कम्युनिटी के या फिर all the communities involved in conflict, then you cannot say that there is enduring peace or this peace building process will be successful. Wherever this fissure has remained, even Sri Lanka, I will give you the example. Practically speaking, militarily speaking, the militancy, the LTT, the world's first organization to introduce suicide bombing, the deadliest terrorist organization, which operated fleet of aeroplanes and ships. That kind of powerful military organization, LTT, has been now eliminated, theoretically eliminated. But can you say Sri Lanka has achieved enduring peace? I cannot say that, because the fissures are there. Anytime the conflict can emerge and there can be bloodshed in Sri Lanka, various places. You cannot, but you can very safely say, Mizoram in India's northeast is a completely peaceful society. Whereas in 1968, Mizoram had declared independence from Indian Union. Okay, so from that level of conflict, it could be scaled down, it could be reserved, and peace could be made over a period of time. And now you can say the peace building is complete. And in this Mizo success, the role of civil societies, is very, very interesting. Both secular civil societies, religious civil societies, familial civil societies, like organization of mothers. The mothers of the society, they said, we are mothers. We are mothers of the so-called insurgents. We are mothers of the so-called army. We are the mothers of the so-called civilians. So our concern is not dependent on your ideological identity. We will do whatever we think a mother should do. Whenever a child is injured, they will go, whether it is an insurgent's house or a civilian's house or a army wala's house. So these kind of activities, started building trust, and the trust deficit that had developed during conflict, started getting mitigated. And once trust deficit started getting mitigated, negotiations were there, which led to political settlements, and political settlements, proved to be the panacea for those problems. So Mizoram is a success story, but same success has not been achieved in Sri Lanka. So you cannot say the effectiveness of civil society would be the same everywhere, but it would take time if Sri Lankan warring parties start trusting the civil society and repose faith on the civil society, go along with their lines. Then in course of time we can also say with the kind of certainty with which we can say that Mizoram will never have any more conflicts. We can say that the certainty that Sri Lanka will not have that kind of conflict. So this kind of success depends squarely on the one side on the nature of the problem. किस तरह की problem है, किस तरह की conflict है, वहाँ पे civil society की perform करने की scope कितना है, and civil society की acceptability कितना है. Everything is all these factors are taken together, determine how successful a civil society would be in a particular case. How successful a civil society be in specific situations. And examples of success and failure are there, everywhere. In all the any conflict you pick up, in Africa, same Rwanda. In Rwanda, from that level of massacre, उसी level की जो massacre हुई थी हुतूज ने जो टुट्सी लोगों की थी, अब वहां पे एक एनजीओ है which has the first de-escalatory move, the first de-escalatory move that NGO could manage to do. जो लोग वारिंग फैक्शंस थे, उसके बाद क्या हुआ, हुटू एंड टुट्सी के बीच में जो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट चली थी, उसमें जो टुट्सी लोग बच गए थे, वो लोग रवांडा छोड़ के भाग गए थे, and they regrouped and they came back and they captured power. And when they captured power, they started taking revenge on these Hutus who had killed the Tutsis. Again a counter massacre was about to begin or had begun almost, but the civil society intervened and prevented that massacre. It has caused massacre. So इस तरह की म्यूचुअल massacre जहाँ पे हुई थी, वहां पे de-escalation, वहां पे पीस बिल्डिंग की पहला और conflict management and conflict transformation की पहले मूव के तौर पे वहां पे एक फुटबॉल मैच किया गया and with teams mixed with Hutus and Tutsis. Just imagine, can it be possible in the absence of a civil society which does that mediating role? So from that level of violence, जहाँ पे लगता था कि यहाँ पे और कोई चारा नहीं, ये लोग अपने आप एक दूसरे को मार मुर के रहेंगे, तो वहां पे भी सिविल सोसाइटी ने अपना काम किया है और वहां पे सक्सेस मिला है सिविल सोसाइटी को. बट ये सक्सेस हर जगह नहीं मिली है. अभी तक रोहिंग्या में ये सक्सेस, इन म्यांमार इतनी सक्सेस ये सक्सेस नहीं मिली है, बांग्लादेश में इतनी सक्सेस नहीं मिली है. क्यों नहीं मिली है इतनी सक्सेस? एक तो द नेचर ऑफ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट पे डिपेंड करता है. जैसे मैंने कहा, अगर कॉन्फ्लिक्ट प्राइमोडियल आइडेंटिटी पे है, वहां वो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट खत्म होना बहुत डिफिकल्ट है. अगर वो ड्यूरेबल भी है, तो वहां पे सिर्फ आप पीस मैनेजमेंट की बात कर सकते हो. सिविल सोसाइटी गेट्स more involved in peace management than getting the scope to turn towards peace, conflict resolution and peace building, क्योंकि ये ड्यूरेबल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स है. तो वहां पे सिविल सोसाइटी की रोल अगर इवैल्यूएट करनी पड़ेगी, तो इवेल्युएट करनी पड़ेगी कि हाउ सक्सेसफुल द सिविल सोसाइटी हैज बीन इन मैनेजिंग कॉन्फ्लिक्ट। ना ये किस पे डिपेंड करता है, आज आई एम सेइंग दैट कि अगर सिविल सोसाइटी क्यों एक जगह सक्सेसफुल होता है तो एक जगह अनसक्सेसफुल क्यों होता है, जैसे मैंने कहा इट डिपेंड्स ऑन द नेचर ऑफ द सिविल सोसाइटी इटसेल्फ। यू नो अभी तक तो हम इतनी पॉजिटिव बातें कर गए सिविल सोसाइटी के बारे में, कभी कभी सिविल सोसाइटी खुद भी पार्ट होता है इस कॉन्फ्लिक्ट का। जब सिविल सोसाइटी पार्ट होता है कॉन्फ्लिक्ट का, इसका रोल इज इक्वल टू द रोल आज आज हम लोग एम्फसाइज कर सकते हैं यू नो in a conflict where on one side there is state and a non-state actor on the other side. ये तब सिविल सोसाइटी और उस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के बीच में कोई कोई फर्क नहीं है। जैसे मैंने कहा इन फिलीपींस though there are organizations which have managed to establish manage peace by establishing zones of peace, वहीं पे the civil society organization, the religious civil society organization, the Christian civil society organization, the Islamic civil society organizations who believe that the peace can be enforced by force, like they can eliminate the Islamic insurgency, then peace can come. So this belief is there in handling many insurgency problems, that you can eliminate the insurgents and the problem will be solved. Sri Lanka has made that mistake. In India, we are trying to make the same mistake. We are trying to identify terrorists where they don't exist, and we rather create them than trying to identify them. So in such kind of situations, the role of civil society becomes very ineffective. And secondly, the civil society itself, the Christian civil societies in Philippines, they consider that elimination of Islamic insurgents is the only way to do it. So such kind of understanding, civil societies with such kind of understanding cannot be effective harbingers of peace in the society, because they ultimately are contributing in a way to the perpetuation of the conflict. And secondly, it depends on their nature. Like a religious organization, I'm not saying religious organizations are not effective in conflict management, conflict resolution, or peace building. I'm not suggesting that. All I'm saying is that if an organization is a religious organization, then its success would depend on the nature of the conflict. In the sense, if the conflict is of a primordial identity, let's say हिंदू मुस्लिम की लड़ाई चल रही है, कोई भी जगह हिंदू मुस्लिम की लड़ाई चल रही है, वहां पे जो सिविल सोसाइटी होगी, उसकी इफेक्टिवनेस, अगर कोई एक रिलीजियस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन वहां पे जाके मीडिएट करने की कोशिश करेगा, इट विल नॉट सक्सीड, because it would be considered as part of the problem. The level of trust in such organizations would be less. But a church can play a very significant role, as it had done in the India's northeast and many other places in the world. Church has been the main source of main force of negotiation, main space for negotiation, playing the role of the civil society in conflicts which are much secular in nature, where territory is in question or other identities are questioned, where resources are in question. Such kind of conflict, जहाँ पे लड़ाई जो है वो सेकुलर है, वहां पे अगर एक रिलीजियस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ने इंटरवेन करने की कोशिश की है तो वहां पे सक्सेस उसको ज्यादा मिला है. लेकिन if a conflict is of religious nature itself, so वहां पे एक रिलीजियस नेचर को सक्सेस मिलना उतनी is not that easy. So this is one set of problems that the civil society organizations it determine that how much success will a particular civil society organization achieve in resolving conflict and in building peace. Now the final thing I would like to say is that that जब मैंने कहा कि ultimately पीस अगर बिल्ड करना है तो द वारिंग फैक्शंस को जो है उनको करना है पीस बिल्डिंग, तो इनको क्या करना है, दिस सिविल सोसाइटी को करना क्या है, इनको करना है जो एंगेजमेंट की जरूरत है दोनों वारिंग फैक्शंस के बीच में, वो एंगेजमेंट के लिए कंड्यूसिव एटमॉस्फेयर तैयार करना इनकी काम होता है. देखिए जब एक कॉन्फ्लिक्ट चलता है उसका कितने कुछ लेवल्स होते हैं जहाँ पे कि एक टॉप क्लास लीडर्स रहते हैं कम्युनिटी के और वारिंग फैक्शंस के, टॉप क्लास। जैसे अफगानिस्तान में एक तरफ स्टेट की लीडरशिप है, तो दूसरी तरफ उनकी सूरा की लीडरशिप है, उनके लॉया जिरगा की लीडरशिप है, तालिबान की उनकी कोई मुल्ला की लीडरशिप है। तो ये है टॉप रैंक लीडर्स। ये लोग डिसीजन लेंगे कि चलो आज हम डिसाइड किए कि नहीं होगा, कॉन्फ्लिक्ट आज से बंद हुआ। जैसे तालिबान लीडरशिप बैठ के बोल दिए काबुल में कि नहीं नहीं, औरतों को अधिकार मिलेगा। बट आप कांदाहार चले जाओ, आप जाबुल प्रोविंस चले जाओ, आप कहीं और चले जाइए, जाके वहां पे देखिएगा, वहां का जो लोकल लीडर है, जो मिडिल रैंक का लीडर है, ही इज ट्राइंग टू इम्पोज शरिया लॉ as he has understood from his childhood. Okay, so the leadership's commitment, the top rank leadership's commitment to conflict prevention at times becomes very ineffective in actual, because unless there is an engagement at the level of the lower rank leaders and the foot soldiers who generally जो लोग ये जो हेट्रेड है, म्यूचुअल हेट्रेड है, वो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट का जो हेट्रेड है, जो जिसको जो परपेचुएट करने में जो लोग लगे रहते हैं एज फूड सोल्जर्स, जब तक उनके बीच में डायलॉग नहीं होता है, तब वो ऊपर बैठ के वो कमिटमेंट का कोई मतलब नहीं होता है। वो कमिटमेंट दैट इज वेरी वेरी फ्राजाइल, वो कुछ दिन रहता है, फिर इट रिवर्स बैक, बिकॉज वो जो द कॉन्फ्लिक्ट का जो पोटेंशियल है, जो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट का जो क्या बोलते हैं, द रीजंस ऑफ द कॉन्फ्लिक्ट एंड वो रीजंस ऑफ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट से लेके उसके मैनिफेस्टेशन से जो म्यूचुअल ट्रॉमा, जो म्यूचुअल हेट्रेड एट द लेवल, एट द लोअर लेवल हुआ है, जब तक उसको मैनेज नहीं किया जाएगा, तब तक एक्चुअली कॉन्फ्लिक्ट रिजोल्यूशन नहीं हो सकता, एंड दैट सोसाइटी कैन नॉट मूव टुवर्ड्स पीस बिल्डिंग। एंड द सिविल सोसाइटी प्लेज a very significant role in doing these two, three things. They manage to engage these middle level and lower level warring factions, and they manage to kind of put them under trauma therapy and help them in healing their scars, their historical scars. The scars either were received or were told to have been received by their ancestors. Historically हम लोग, अरे हमारे दादा परदादा को मारे थे तो हमको मारना। So इस तरह के जो नैरेटिव से जो स्कैर्स को बाय जनरेशंस इनहेरिट पास ऑन किया जाता है, उस स्कार से रिकवर करने के लिए, हील करने की जो प्रोसेस है, दैट इज डन बाय दिस सिविल सोसाइटी। So I would say these are basically the role of civil societies in peace building, and they keep on doing this role when they manage to end the conflict. When conflict ends, conflict resolves, then they keep on playing that role. That engagement keeps on keeps continuing for, let's say, 5 to 10 years according to the situation, where physical reconstruction is needed, opportunities needs to be created, the newfound cooperation or the newfound peaceful situation must demonstrate its success. उसकी सक्सेस को दिखानी पड़ेगी, तो उसके लिए जो प्लानिंग्स चाहिए, जो करना चाहिए, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बनाना है, इकोनॉमी को हैंडल करना है, लॉन्ग टर्म प्लानिंग्स करना है, रिहेबिलिटेशन करना है, जो जस्टिस सिस्टम ऐसा बनानी है कि दोनों तरफ को लगे कि यस यहाँ से हमको आराम से जस्टिस मिल सकती है, हमको हथियार उठाने की जरूरत नहीं है। एंड वो हथियार जो यूज हुए हैं उनकी मैनेजमेंट भी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, बिकॉज अगर वो अनरेगुलेटेड रहा तो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट कैन इमर्ज एट एनी प्लेस। तो इतनी सारी चीजें, इन सब चीजों को अगले 10 साल तक इनको मैनेज करके सिविल सोसाइटीज ही मैनेज करता है, क्योंकि अल्टीमेट गारंटी तो स्टेट ने दे दिया होगा या फिर वारिंग फैक्शन ने दे दिया होंगे, लेकिन इसको ग्रासरूट लेवल पे इंश्योर करने का काम करता है सिविल सोसाइटी। ऐसे ही काम करके 10-12 साल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट खत्म होने के बाद, जब सक्सेसफुली 10-12 साल बीत जाता है, एंड उसके बीच में सोसाइटी को और पॉलिटिकल सिस्टम को सोशल कोहेशन को इतनी मजबूत कर दी जाती है कि लोगों के बीच में जो पहले की जो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट की जो वजह थी, जो डिस्ट्रेस थी, वो खत्म होके फिर दे स्टार्ट फीलिंग म्यूचुअल टुगेदरनेस and lead to a situation which we can say really a peaceful situation. So that is the role the civil society plays from before the beginning of the conflict. That is from conflict prevention to conflict management to conflict transformation to conflict resolution to peace building, and the end in building peace if at all they succeed. I would like to stop here, and we can go in for a question and answer session. Thank you all for your present hearing.
Thank you, Dr. Mishra, for a wonderful presentation we have. Now I open this floor for question and answers. If you have any query, any comment, please, students.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, if you will correlate this civil society role in the current scenario related with Russian-Ukraine crisis, particularly if you will see, sir, eastern region, particularly the Donbass region, that is Luhansk and Donetsk region, they are being considered as the Russian separatist. And they are more towards the Russian people. And if you look at the west side, they are more towards the European nation. Sir, I want to know that what would be the possible way to avoid this crisis, whatever has been happening in this region?
Okay, let me tell you. There is a history to this Ukraine issue. It's not possible to tell you. अभी यहाँ पे बैठ के पूरी चीज बताना it itself would be a lecture. लेकिन इतना है कि ठीक okay, Sima, you will ask the next question. Fine. So यूक्रेन में एक डिवीजन है जो कि प्रो रशियन एंड एंटी रशियन डिवीजन है, एंड उनकी पॉलिटिकल रिप्रेजेंटेशन साइक्लिक स्टाइल पे इन द सेंस इन कॉम्पिटिटिव मोड चलता था. एंड 2014 तक वहां पे जो लोग राज करते थे, मतलब राज इन द सेंस दोज हु वर इन पावर, लाइक यूनुकोविच एंड सपोर्टर्स, दे वर ऑल रशियन सपोर्ट, रशियनिस्ट इन द सेंस उनको रशिया के साथ रहना अच्छा लगता था. Okay, they were in praise of Russian culture, and they were thinking that we are all part of Russia. तब तक रशिया को कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं थी क्योंकि अपनी कल्चर के लोग, हमारे लोग वहां पे are managing the country, so no problem. जब when the American backed people could manage to overthrow Yanukovych and bring in people who are anti-Russians, of that social fissure, we यूक्रेन के सोशल फिशर में से जब एंटी रशियन लोगों को लाके पावर में रख दिया, तब जाके रशिया को एंग्शियस लगने लगा कि भाई अरे ये जगह तो हमारे हाथ से चला गया. एंड एक्चुअली वही हुआ. तो वहां पे आने के बाद ही, उसके बाद ही वो नाटो में ज्वाइन करेंगे, ये करेंगे, वो करेंगे, जो भी है फाइन, वो सब इंडिपेंडेंस के अंडर आता है, फॉरेन पॉलिसी चॉइस के अंडर आता है, फाइन. बट जरूरत क्या थी? बट जो भी हो वो उनका काम करे. बट यही कारण है जो कि रशिया को एंग्शियस लगने लगा. तो लेकिन क्वेश्चन जो आपका था वो अब क्वेश्चन था कि ये कब तक चला, ये अभी और इस फिशर को जो है ना थोड़ा और चौड़ा कर दिया गया, एंड अब इस पे खेल चलेगी. एंड ये खेल सोवियत यूनियन रशिया इसको खत्म करना चाहेगी जितनी जल्दी, लेकिन अमेरिका वालों ने यूक्रेन की सरकार को देके जो काम करवाए हैं, वो लाइक रशिया को 10 साल तक जैसे अफगानिस्तान में खिलाए थे अमेरिका वालों ने, ऐसे ही करने के लिए सारे इंटायर पॉपुलेशन को आर्म कर दिया है. all the able-bodied male members or female members are now armed in Ukraine. So इंसर्जेंसी की समझ रहे हैं आप, इंसर्जेंसी की इंटेंट जो ये है, साइज है, entire population is insurgent, entire male able population between the age of 18 to 60 आर इंसर्जेंट्स, तो कितनी बड़ी बड़ी प्रॉब्लम अभी क्रिएट किया जा रहा है। तो अब ये जो है इनके बीच में तो फिशर तो है ही, वो डोनेट्स्क और लुहांस्क जो आप बोल रहे हो, दो दे आर ऑब्वियसली वेरी क्लोज टू, जब एंटायर यूक्रेन में हारे यानुकोविच के सपोर्टर्स, only those are the areas they could stick on, and the Russians were very quick to support them. So Donetsk and Luhansk आज independence हो गए. So अभी ये फिशर्स चलेगा, अभी यूक्रेन की अभी सिचुएशन बहुत खराब है फ्यूचर में. यस, नो, पहले सीमा.
Thank you, sir.
मेरा क्वेश्चन ये था कि देयर इज नो डाउट कि सिविल सोसाइटी जो है वो पीस कीपिंग में बहुत काफी महत्वपूर्ण इम्पोर्टेंट रोल प्ले करती है, लेकिन सर सिविल सोसाइटी को लेकर ये एलिगेशंस ज्यादातर नेशंस ये लगाते हैं कि ये दूसरी कंट्रीज का यूज किसी अपनी कंट्री पे या किसी दूसरी कंट्री पे उसको कंट्रोल करने के लिए या उसके डेवलपमेंट को कंट्रोल करने के लिए लगाती है. तो सर एक एग्जांपल मैं लेना चाहूंगी, मुझे प्रोजेक्ट का नाम तो नहीं याद है, बट गवर्नमेंट शायद कोई रोड प्रोजेक्ट चला रही है जिसपे जितने भी इन्वायरमेंटल से रिलेटेड जितने भी एनजीओस है वो उसको लेके वो केस सुप्रीम कोर्ट में चली गई और उसकी हियरिंग अभी तक काफी टाइम से चल रही है और गवर्नमेंट उस प्रोजेक्ट को कंप्लीट नहीं कर पा रही है. तो उसको लेके गवर्नमेंट का ये एलिगेशन लगता है कि वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज जैसे अमेरिका और बाकी कंट्रीज इसका सिविल सोसाइटी का यूज हमारे डेवलपमेंट को रोकने के लिए करिए. तो सर इस पे आप क्या कमेंट करना चाहेंगे?
मोस्ट पर्टिनेंट क्वेश्चन इन दिस कंट्री राइट नाउ. इस देश में ये अभी सबसे अहम सवाल है, और इसका आंसर मैं देने के लिए यस भी दे सकता हूँ, नो भी दे सकता हूँ. इंटरेस्टिंग सिचुएशन ये है. इसलिए इंटरेस्टिंग सिचुएशन है कि इस एलिगेशन में कुछ सच्चाई भी है कि कुछ ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस ऐसे भी हैं जो कि इंडियन इंटरेस्ट को सैबोटेज कर सकते हैं और करते हैं. इसकी एविडेंस भी है, लेकिन ये एविडेंस गवर्नमेंट की एविडेंस के साथ मैच नहीं करती. ये भी सच्चाई है. गवर्नमेंट जिसको बोलता है कि ये ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ये ऑर्गेनाइजेशन देश के बाहर के पैसे से काम करता है, देश के खिलाफ काम करता है, वो एविडेंस नहीं है. Those evidences are not true evidences or correct evidence. But there are evidences of organizations are working against Indian interests. Okay, with foreign money, no doubt about it. But ये गवर्नमेंट के एविडेंस से मैच नहीं करती. तो मेरा आंसर यही रहेगा कि जबकि ऐसा हो सकता है और होता है, उसको असल में जहां हो रहा है वहां पे ना पकड़ के उसके ढाल पे जो लोग ओरिजिनली अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं उनको अपनी पॉलिटिकल कंपल्शंस या इंटरेस्ट के लिए क्या करते हैं, यूज करते हैं, उस लॉजिक को यूज करके इनको बदनाम करते हैं. यही किया जा रहा है इंडिया.
ओके सर, थैंक यू. यस सर, थैंक यू.
Yes, Arvind.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, as you told us, civil society is an essential part of our proper functioning of the state. But
Right.
sir, you can see there is a tendency to see NGOs representing all the civil society. This narrow categorization often sideline the contribution of important actors and traditional leaders. So, so that my question is sir, how can we tackle this particular challenge?
Which challenge?
Yes, sir.
Which challenge? Which challenge do you want us to challenge?
Sir, we can see there is a tendency to see NGOs as representing all the civil societies.
He's primarily saying
Okay. Yes. I got
NGOs
it.
being
I got it.
taken as
I
society
got it.
only.
I got it. Well, listen. It's not a problem actually. It's not actually a problem. NGOs do represent the society. जैसे मैंने कहा कि वो जो भी हो, वो एनजीओ हो, कोई भी हो, he is just an abstraction of the society. So वो पूरी तरह से सोसाइटी को तो सब नहीं करता है रिप्रेजेंट, बट पार्ट ऑफ द सोसाइटी इज सर्टनली रिप्रेजेंटेड बाय हिम, बिकॉज ही हिमसेल्फ इज पार्ट ऑफ द सोसाइटी. सो हम ये क्लेम को मना नहीं कर सकते हैं उस एनजीओ का कि वो रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं, लेकिन वो अगर कहने लगे कि हम ही रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं और कोई नहीं, वो गलत होगा. दैट्स नॉट करेक्ट. No NGO or no particular organization for that matter. No particular organization. Not even the state represents me fully. I can argue that. So, ये कहना ठीक है कि भैया हम रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं सोसाइटी के ओपिनियन को, फाइन, बट हम ही रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं इज रॉन्ग. देयर आर मेनी मोर एक्टर्स, मेनी अदर एक्टर्स who also represent parts of society's consciousness, part of society's opinion, part of society's desire or aspiration. So no organization can say. But NGOs, yes, certainly are seen as primary movers of primary, but they are the identifiable symbols of civil society, you can say, or identifiable agencies of civil society. But they are not all, they are not all. There are many.
Dr. Mishra, there is a question in the chat box. Can civil society have the potential to become substitute of states in near future? Asks Nagma Khan.
Oh, excellent. In the sense, unless civil society is heard, and kind of civil society's agendas are pursued. Unfortunately, in future, the state will not be there. Whether there will be civil society or not is a second issue. The state will not be there, certainly. It would represent, I have written about it in one of my pieces, even repeated in 2-3 pieces. The way we are progressing, in fact, regressing, blundering into disaster, I haven't used it, is, I think, correct phrase used by Ahmad Rashid. The way we are moving, the states are moving, unless their actions are mended under the guidance and suggestion of the civil society, they themselves will not exist. And what would come about is a web of identities, various kinds of identities, linguistic, religion, ethnicity, gender, you can go on adding, all these identities, overlapping identities, and all of them are claiming, community identity, they're claiming nationality, they're claiming geography, all these kinds of, that kind of, tussle I can visualize. The state will not be there. So whether civil society will be there or not, I think the only thing that would be existing to coordinate among all these identities is the civil society. So the state system must be better prepared. Those who profess this, existence of state, fine. Nobody undermines the importance of state. Nobody wishes to get rid of the state, but the state better be responsive of the requirements and be accountable for their actions, or else they will have a doomsday, not the civil society. So that understanding whether civil society will replace the state one day is not the question. The question is, can the state sustain itself the way it is functioning? Okay, that is the main question.
Anu, are you still there?
Yes, ma'am.
Please ask me.
Good evening, sir.
Good
So
evening.
my question is, we see that the responsibilities or functions of a civil society is making people aware of their rights and their responsibilities too, and they used to uh, s- put some pressure on government also. So can we say that in a developed society, fully developed society, where citizens are uh, citizen in a true sense, they are aware of their rights and their responsibilities, then can we say that each and every person in that developed society is a civil society? Individually, can we give use this term for individuals?
Yes, the answer is yes. हमने भी किया. I also said it can be an individual, you know, it can be an individual failed. ये देखो कैलाश सत्यार्थी, would you call him an civil society or not? कैलाश सत्यार्थी, single individual. There are many examples. Yes, an empowered and enlightened, a concerned individual is civil society. Okay, let me define it that way.
Thank you, sir.
Simran, Simran Chauhan. Simran, I think you had raised your hand.
Yes, ma'am.
Still there? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening.
Good evening.
Sir, my question is civil society not wanting to interfere in means India's relations? Means, sir, is there any or sir, is there any compulsion laid by our government not to indulge it into India's better relation with its neighbors, like China or Pakistan mostly, sir, we can say that. Sir, because as you also mentioned in your lecture that civil society failure has been seen during India's Pak division of India, sir.
Mhm.
So basically, so on the other side, there is success also got by civil society, mostly in state like सर जैसे कि मिज़ोरम का आपने सर नाम दिया कि वहाँ पे पीस बिल्डिंग में सिविल सोसाइटी का बहुत ही बड़ा रोल रहा है.
Um, I didn't get the question, but anyway, if you are talking about whether the government of India, अगर इंडियन गवर्नमेंट कुछ एक ऐसे कुछ limitations किया है, for the functioning of civil society.
Yes, sir.
uh,
Yes, sir. Definitely.
हाँ अभी yes, unfortunately let me say, I'm a vocal person in that sense. अभी की जो dispensation है, it doesn't trust civil society. It has a different definition of civil society. I will not say it doesn't trust civil society. It doesn't trust every kind of civil society. It doesn't trust those individuals that we are talking about, who are civil society. Certainly, definitely civil societies. Those civil societies the state doesn't believe. The current state has its own definition of civil society. It does respect civil society, its own version of definition of civil society, and its own assignment of importance. These civil societies are important. Academic.
Nancy Chopra.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Good evening,
Nancy.
sir.
Good
Yes,
evening.
Yeah.
yes, ma'am. Sir, the way we have discussed about the relationship between the state and the civil society, and like you posed this question, ki, without civil society, is state possible? Sir, I wanted to ask, sir, isn't this relationship vice versa as well? Like, isn't a higher organization needed to regulate the civil society as well to prevent the overreach of the society, or to prevent civil society turning into a violent organization? So don't you think is a state is always necessary to regulate the civil societies?
That would be the ideal situation. The ideal situation is both complement each other and manage things before they get out of hand, instead of trying to regulate each other. What is this concept of regulation? Why is the civil society not trusted? Why won't you trust your own? Do you distrust each and every charitable organization that is there? Would you distrust each and every football club that is registered? Do you distrust any library that is created? What would you? Why so much distrust? Why so much distrust? Why do you wish to regulate? Why can't you? Why can't you have that kind of confidence through your actions that nobody would rise against you? That's what is called accountable governance. If the governance is perfect, is good, the government need not spend sleepless night. The government need not bother about its existence or the existence of the state. Uh, a peaceful government is that government which doesn't apprehend a rebellion the next morning. So that can be ensured only by accountable government, by demonstrated success, by demonstrated accommodation of each and every aspiration of the society. And if the civil society is supplementing that role of the state, or complementing that role of the state, or is at least fulfilling the role of an evaluator or a reminder, whatever, the role of civil society should be appreciated instead of trying to regulate their activities. That's what is my position.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yes, any more questions?
Sure. I think enough. Rakesh.
So I think question session is now over, and now I request to Dr. Manisha Mishra for vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Rajesh Kumar Meena, sir. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, you are, Dr. Mishra.
Thank you,
Yes.
sir. So, after this detailed analysis of the role of civil society, now, on behalf of the organizing committee of both the colleges, Department of Political Science, Vasanta College for Women, and Department of Political Science, DAV PG College, Varanasi, I express my sincere gratitude to Dr. Binod Mishra, sir. You have beautifully discussed the role that is not known to us, the civil society is playing, and especially where we find that from the very beginning, before the conflict, starting from prevention to management, uh, resolution, rehabilitation, in all sections, the civil society is playing a very crucial role, starting from conflict resolution to peace building to peace negotiations. And sometimes their modus operandi quite change, but the success rate may differ. But still, post 1987, in the post 1987 scenario, we find that in several cases, such as in Mizoram, they have a very success story, where in some of the cases they doesn't have that much of success, but still continuously they are playing a very crucial role. And how you have given so many examples which are not known to us, such as the example of the Rwanda. Being the student of political science, we must know that we know the lesson about that Hutu has exploited the Tutsi population, but how civil society has managed the further repercussions when the Tutsi returned to the power and they tried to take the revenge. The civil society played a very crucial role, but in some cases they have not worked well. But how they are engaging in management of this conflict scenario and trying to save the mankind from the devastating efforts of conflicts, that's definitely we have come to know several new aspects and dimensions which is not known to us through your enlightening, thought-provoking, and very informative deliberation. I'm thankful to you, sir, on behalf of the whole organizing committee.
My pleasure.
And in the next, I am very much thankful to Professor Alka Singh, Principal, Vasanta College for Women, and Professor Satyajit Singh, sir, Principal, DAV PG College, for their collaborative efforts and blessings. I'm also very much grateful to our three conveners, Dr. Preeti Singh, Dr. Swati Sucharita Nanda, and Dr. Punita Patak, for planning, organizing, and executing such a relevant workshop on a very significant theme. I'm very much thankful to Dr. Rakesh Meena, Dr. Priyanka, Dr. Pratima Gupta for their support and collaborative efforts. And last but not the least, I'm very much thankful to all the participants for their patience hearing and active involvement during the interactive question answer session. Now I request the student to be here, and I open the floor for sharing their experiences of these 5 days workshop. Thank you very much, sir. We are very grateful for your
No, it was my pleasure. Swati, you want to say something? It was on
Thank you so
Swati's
much.
request I was here.
Thank you so much for sparing time for being with us despite your busy schedule. Thank you. We know that you have started a new profession now. You are, besides your research institute that you are heading, you have become a lawyer now, and you are
Yes, and
practicing
very
lawyer in the
vigilant,
High
very, very
Court.
vigilant.
Uh, so thank you
See,
so
see,
much
see,
for
very vigilant. Even on my
Okay, okay,
even on my
okay.
holiday, I have this much of cases to deal with.
So that's why. Thank you
Chalo, it was
so much
pleasant.
for
It was a pleasure.
sparing time for our students. Yeah, and
Hmm.
प्यारे बच्चों, आप
Thank you, sir.
प्लीज अपने एक्सपीरियंस शेयर करें, जैसे कि मैम ने बोला.
You can, student, you may raise your hand, then we can call you one by one. Those
Swati, am I needed in this, or it is for probably your 5-day
नहीं,
experience?
I think
Yes, sir, it is for 5
So
days.
may I take leave?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
okay. Thank you so much.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much, sir.
Yeah,
And
it
we
was
would
a
like to
pleasure.
invite you in future on law also,
Yes,
because
yes,
now you have.
yes,
We'd
yes,
love
yes,
to have you here with us in
yes,
person.
yes. I would love to visit there and share,
Thank you.
interact
Thank you
with
so
all of
much,
you.
sir.
Thank you. It was
Yes,
lovely
sir.
meeting you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. Now I request the students to share their experience. You can do two things. Either you unmute your mic or you can write in the chat box. There are three names
There is
with
one
me.
hand raised,
Those-
Manisha. If you can see, it is Seema. Seema has
Yes.
raised, and other students are also requested to raise hand. Those, because we are together for 5 days and we have discussed many area related to, and what was the purpose basically to make you understand this whole field, and also because now most of the students are pursuing MA, so you are preparing for a PhD. We are very hopeful that you have learned many things regarding your future PhD also, many area which you can take up for your PhD. So we can see number of hand raised, Manisha. You can invite one by one.
There are four
And
names.
ha,
Yes.
please go ahead.
Yes, Seema Yadav, please unmute yourself and share your experience.
Good evening, ma'am, and good evening to all our teachers. Ma'am, मैं सबसे पहले तो अपने प्रिंसिपल मैम को और डीएवी कॉलेज के प्रिंसिपल मैम को थैंक्स कहना चाहूँगी कि उन्होंने हमारे लिए इतना अच्छा लेक्चर ऑर्गेनाइज किया। एंड इस लेक्चर में सबसे खास बात ये होती है कि ये बाइलिंगुअल होता है, तो इसमें जो भी इंग्लिश वाले या हिंदी वाले स्टूडेंट होते हैं, ये सबके लिए हेल्पफुल होता है। और इतने अच्छे बेस्ट स्कॉलर्स को हमारे लिए बुलाया जाता है, हमारे लिए ये लेक्चर ऑर्गेनाइज किया जाता है। तो जब हम उनसे ये लेक्चर सुनते हैं तो हमें कई सारे डायमेंशंस, किसी भी टॉपिक को समझने के कई सारे डायमेंशंस मिल जाते हैं। तो इसके लिए मैं अपनी प्रिंसिपल मैम का और डीएवी कॉलेज के प्रिंसिपल मैम का और अपने सभी टीचर्स का धन्यवाद करना चाहूंगी। और अपने टीचर्स के लिए उन्होंने हमारे लिए इतना मेहनत किया, इतना एफर्ट किया और इतने अच्छे लेक्चर ऑर्गेनाइज किया है। तो मैंने उनके लिए 4 लाइन लिखा है, मैं वो कहना चाहूंगी कि ये काम नहीं आसान जो आप लोग करके दिखाते हैं। दुनिया के कोने कोने से हमारे लिए बेस्ट स्कॉलर्स बुलाते हैं। पूरी श्रद्धा और मेहनत से आप अपना गुरु धर्म निभाते हैं। है धन्य हम स्टूडेंट जो आप जैसे टीचर्स पाते हैं। तो थैंक यू सो मच मैम, थैंक यू।
बहुत अच्छा सीमा, बहुत बहुत अच्छा।
थैंक यू मैम।
सीमा, क्या आपको लगता है आने वाले समय में भी इस तरह से होनी चाहिए कोलैबोरेशंस, और इस तरह से सब और होना चाहिए लेक्चर्स?
यस मैम श्योर, क्योंकि मैम इससे हमें काफी नॉलेज भी मिलती है और किसी भी टॉपिक को समझने के अलग अलग डायमेंशंस मिलते हैं जहाँ तक शायद हम सोच भी नहीं पाते हैं। तो ऐसे लेक्चर्स हमारे लिए बहुत ज्यादा जरूरी है।
बहुत अच्छा, थैंक यू।
Thank you, Seema, for sharing your experiences. Now, Nancy Chopra, please unmute yourself.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Nancy Chopra from MA Political Science final year. These past 5 days of workshop on conflict resolution and peace research has helped me in a number of ways. It gave me a critical perspective to look at not only the situations of war or violence, but also how to examine situation of peace as well. It opened me up to the possibility of various research areas in which I could pursue my further studies. It was a privilege that speakers of such high honor and esteem from the best institutes of India spared their time to deliver lectures which are particularly very relevant looking at the contemporary situation. The best part was that each and every speaker taught us the concepts by relating it to the case studies or day to day issues or even their personal experiences. I'm highly grateful to the faculty of both the colleges and all the keynote speakers for providing me with such an intellectual platform. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nancy. Do you think more such collaboration should happen in future, Nancy?
Definitely, ma'am. Definitely, it has helped our batch, and it would be really great that if it could help the other batches as well. This is the way to empower the youth.
Yes, now I request Kumar Ashutosh to share your experiences.
Good evening, everybody, and respected faculty members. I am Kumar Astos from DAV PG College, final year BA student. First of all, I would like to thank respected Swati Nanda ma'am because she is so keen of organizing such modern crisis issue that has been happening around the world. Actually, I love to say that when I was in class and she was sharing the Russian-Ukraine crisis, then thought that a particular topic she organized a Republica forum, and I love that in this webinar also and in this workshop I particularly I learned to how to perceive the things. We all know to go through the books and there are certain query that we don't get cleared from the books, and such as the marvelous speakers from the different part of this country, we got enlightened, and I would love to thanks to all the members, and thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, Ashutosh. It was a collaborative effort. So it was not any one person or any one college. So we were all together at it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, now Anamika Gupta, please unmute yourself and share your experience.
Good evening, all the respected teachers and my dear friends. My name is Anamika Gupta and I'm a final year student of Masters. Being a part of this workshop on conflict resolution and peace research was an opportunity for me to further build up my understanding on the discipline. Since we have this paper in our curriculum, I came across many new aspects and perspectives of conflict that I hardly looked into, new strategies and methods that should be worked upon to nip in the bud to prevent the lose-lose situation. Majority of the times focuses on conflict and its resolution. From the workshop, I realized that the emphasis should be on peace, peace, and only peace, and that too in a sustained manner. And India can lead the beacon. The workshop conveyed that the end the talk on the table, active listening and effective communication is the key. In addition to it, being a master's student, I got aware of different and relatively new domains of research for PhD like terrorism research. I hope that more such workshops will be conducted in the future for us. I thank all the teachers for this wonderful eye-opening initiative. Thank you so much.
Any other students? Anyone else who want to share? कोई और बच्चा है जो बोलना चाहता है या फिर अगर चाहते हैं आप कि हम आगे किसी और विषय पे वर्कशॉप या इस तरह का प्लान करें जिस फील्ड में आपको लगता है कि समथिंग शुड बी ऑर्गेनाइज्ड, तो यू कैन लेट अस नो कि किस फील्ड में हमें करना चाहिए. I think, is there any? Kumar Ashutosh.
I have already said my experience.
Yes, okay, fine. Fine, Ashutosh. So I think now we can come to the end, Manisha.
Yes. I request Dr. Punita Pathak for the formal vote of thanks to conclude the session.
Thank you, Manisha. Am I audible? आवाज आ रही है?
Yes, you are audible.
You are audible.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mishra. Good evening, one and all. As today is the last day and we all are in the concluding session. So I am here to confer the formal vote of thanks on behalf of the organizing committee of the workshop made by the collaboration of Vasanta College for Women Rajghat and DAV PG College. I take this opportunity to propose the formal vote of thanks to those who have directly and indirectly contributed to organize this 5 days online workshop on conflict resolution and peace research issues and methods. At the outset, first of all, I would like to thank principals of both the institutes, Professor Alka Singh ma'am, Principal Vasanta College for Women Rajghat, and Professor S.D. Singh sir, Principal DAV PG College, for making this inter-institute collaboration possible. The motivation and the support from both of you is the reason for the successful completion of this workshop. I would also like to express my deep sense of gratitude to our distinguished speakers, Professor Priyanka Upadhyay sir, Professor Kaushiki madam, Professor Anju Sharan Upadhyay ma'am, Dr. Vibhu Prasad sir, Professor Manoj Mishra sir, Professor Dr. Binod Mishra sir, for making such an excellent presentations and making this workshop a very meaningful and interesting. We are really enlightened with your knowledge and presence. We are thankful to our faculties who have dedicated their time and involved so much for the smooth functioning. I would like to thank all of them, and especially Dr. Manisha Mishra, Dr. Rakesh Meena sir, Ms. Priyanka Singh, and Dr. Pratima Gupta ma'am. A special thanks to the conveners of this workshop is Dr. Preeti Singh Di and Dr. Swati Sucharita Nanda Di for working hard for the past few days to make this workshop in a well coordinated and organized manner. It is their sheer dedication and involvement which is reflected in the success of the workshop. Last but not the least, our heartfelt thanks to our students for turning up in a great numbers and for their active participation. I would like to thank all of them for their lively presence and contribution to make this workshop successful. So thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr.
Thanks to the
Preeti.
whole team.
Thank you, Punita ji. Thank you,
ma'am.
Manisha ji.
Thank you all. It was
Thank
a
you
good
all.
team.
And we have
working
got the
in team.
request of the theme